Okay, and I've got the pleasure of introducing Lauren. Lauren is a comedian, an actor, an award-winning filmmaker. She lives in New York City. She's also the author of an Amazon Kindle bestseller called Inside Melania, What I Know About Melania Trump by Impersonating Her. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, BBC, Bust Magazine, McSweeney's Internet Tendency, Hyperallergenic, and others. Her TV and film featured I'm sorry, her work has been featured in TV and film credits, including Beep, Brave and Dark, and Galaxy 360, and she's also a Moth Story Slam champ. A few years ago, Lauren found out that she's donor conceived, and she's been getting involved in our community ever since. In fact, Lauren will be joining us in Cleveland as the MC at our conference in March, and hopefully bringing her Misfit variety comedy show to the Cleveland area that weekend as well. With that, I'll give you Lauren.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and I love questions. Feel free. You can't offend me. Trust me. I don't know. Take a lot. So feel free to ask me anything. Open book, ready to talk about comedy, what have you. So I'm of the belief that like anything could be funny. Like anything. Anything can be made funny. Um, Kinda. And we'll get into that caveat in a little bit. First, I wanted to tell you a bit about me, and I'm going to share my screen and so I can be able to bring you into the story. All right. So I was a bit like Will Ferrell and Elf. I was a very tall Italian, Nordic seeming person in an Italian American family. And I struggled a lot not understanding why I didn't look like the rest of my family. Like I joke, like I didn't even realize like that clothes could fit. Okay. I was very shut off from understanding that. And I'm taking away all the comedy right now on purpose. So if you heard me talk about this before, there's like by now I'm joking about my dad's balls. Okay. So I'm taking it all out on purpose and we'll get to that. So I for a lifetime I actually wrote a solo show where I talked about not looking like my family and trying to like consider my identity. And all of my family watched me do the show, and two of those people knew the truth and said nothing. And so I had a genealogical bewilderment, which I'm glad I understand what that means. That really helped me understand my experience. In a school, I once drew a self-portrait and it was me as like a monster. And it just what I felt like came through. I just felt like I didn't understand where I came from, what I looked like. I was surrounded by tiny, angry Italians. And just, well, I'm just some sort of beast. I don't know. Finally found out that I was a sperm donor kid, and like my life changed. And then all of a sudden when I met my biological father specifically, I understood where my body felt in space, and I could look in the mirror and understand what people were seeing. So to say, until I got rid of, now I've like brought no lightness into this. I've just told you like fact, sad fact, sad fact. And we'll talk about how I transform the story. Because when I would tell the story before, it was never funny. It was like this. And rightly so. Here we go. I was suspicious something was wrong, and I do not exaggerate how insane it was. And I was angry. I was very angry about the situation. And one of the things that we'll talk about is like, you cannot bring lightness if you're still in the anger and you're still in the hurt and you're still crying about it. It's not something that you should ask of yourself. You shouldn't have to do that. I remember, in fact, before I found out, I was a sperm donor kid. I did a story at the Moth, like the Grand Slam Moth thing. And I told a story about being bullied for not looking like people in my class, because I went to school with a lot of Italian Americans. And after that story, which kind of didn't go that great, no surprise, because I was still in this like torturous phase with understanding it, I had a panic attack. And so like, it's hard. This is like a very dangerous place to be to perform, because you're asking people to receive, and you might have an idea of what you want how you want them to respond, which is how every performer goes on stage. You have ideas of how you want the audience to respond, but if you're not stuck in the emotional part of it, then you can be able to professionally handle the situation instead of feeling like the audience is going to fix this emotion that you're having and somehow make you feel better all about it. So it took me a long time to learn to be funny about it, because I had to like discover the lightness within myself. One of the ways that I started in comedy was through characters, because I felt like I didn't understand who I was. And so I had to like make up other personas, and I got really good at it, like really, really, really good at it. That is the White House, in fact, tagged my Melania Trump impression, thinking I was Melania. I put on masks and was good at hiding. But I hadn't yet uncovered my true voice. And character is we'll talk about that. That's a great way to go to maybe start exploring a subject, is not to do it as yourself, but perhaps as a character, and be able to put on a mask to protect yourself as you're going through it. And each one of these characters is a part of myself that I was exploring at the time. For everyone, any one of them, you pick it out. From Judy, I was considering feminism and progressive activism, what that meant. And like even Gigi, just like trying to put my head around what it means to be a rebel. So each one of those is like very personal to me and helped me get through to the other side to be funny. And then finally, when I discovered I was a sperm donor kid, I took the mic myself. And after a lot of work, was able to bring more and more lightness. And as I got more and more okay about stuff, I got more and more funny. So that was my journey in comedy and figuring it out. And the lightness has come hand in hand with the funny the whole time. So what is funny? Like, how do you do that? How do you just like, boom, like, let's be funny? Well, the thing is with comedy is like, no one knows how it works. Like no one, if anyone tells you like, yeah, I got like the like total, like, it's just what's funny. Like a lot of my colleagues talk like that. Don't listen to them. No one knows what's funny. Everyone thinks they understand what's funny to them, but what's funny to you might not be funny to someone else. So then what is funny overall? Who knows? No one knows. So I'm going to give you some ideas about how you could bring lightness and comedy. You might share this with a comedian friend who's like, that's ridiculous. So, and they might tell you something and I'd hear it and go, that's ridiculous. So caveat here, no one knows how comedy works. I'm going to talk to you about a few things. Take them or leave them, like any like sort of advice in the creative realm. You know, there's many ways to slice the cake, as they say. So the first thing, which we've hit on already, is do not, and I talk about this in comedy workshops and classes that I do, we will not talk at all about anything that hasn't been what I call therapized. And I added a definition to what therapized means. It is something that you can talk about easily with friends, perhaps joke about as well. This is something that you do not have an emotional attachment that is so strong, you might get pulled in the negative direction. So when I did that moth story about being bullied, I had so much unresolved issues around identity and about what happened that I was pulled in that negative direction, even though I had practiced it myself. But when you're on like a stage, or if you put something out there on social media, it's like public in a different way, it's going to start pulling you in emotional directions like you might not be ready for. So, and to give you a success story, how that like worked once I dealt with it, like I have a bit about being bullied that is maybe like one of my best bits. I'm started using it as a closer, which is always like your banger at the end. So yes, once you therapize it, yeah, like you can do it. Like you can come to the other side and be able to joke about it. Now, say sometimes it happens. It happens. Sometimes you think, oh, I got this. It's no big deal. Like I could joke about it. No big deal. And then you try it and then you feel like, oh, no, like I can't. It hurts. Or you try it in a very surface level. And then if someone asks you to like some more detail about that and you go deeper and it hurts and you're not ready to talk about it, that's okay. You just figured out where the boundaries are in this thing you're doing. And then you just put it aside. And like I did with the bully thing, later, like all of a sudden you're able to like start spin it. And then you found the way to make it funny. If you do these two things, you're well on your way to bringing some comedy to whatever you're doing. And this could be even just telling your own story to friends. It could be making a Facebook post, making TikToks, writing something. If you want to write a blog or you want to write a book, all of these things all work the same way in terms of how to bring lightness. Is all of these principles can be applied to all of them. So this next principle, two of the most important ones, is that friend. So everyone has like that friend that like laughs at everything you do, that you can just look at each other and laugh. We spend a lot of time in my classes, like thinking about this friend and really visualizing this friend. And this is the friend that you're going to talk to the entire time you're trying to like bring lightness to this or create a little more comedy. You're going to speak to this friend and you're going to use the words that you would use with the friend. You're going to use the mannerisms, the way of speaking. It's almost like they're in the room. And I'm not like making this up, like politicians use this, or people who have to do speeches, they put a family member or like someone they feel connected to in the front row so that when they're speaking, it like gives that extra sense of connection naturally because that person is in the room. So you want to think of your funny person and you're going to put them in your mind when you're writing. And one of the reasons why we want to go to this funny person is because we want the you that is in the belief that you're funny. And a lot of times when people are trying to like bring comedy, lightness to what they're doing, people will try to imitate someone that they might admire in the comedy space. And we all do that to some extent. Like a lot of people say as a comedian, you will imitate the person you love and then until you become your own person. What we all want to do is try to get away from that as soon as possible because you want to sound like you. And the you that is joking with your friend is the comedian. Like you are that person. Conan O'Brien, like when he started his late night show back in the day, it took him like 5 years until his family said he finally sounds like the guy around the dinner table. And if you're like, wow, it took 5 years, like, yes, comedy's hard because you are putting yourself out there. And when you're talking to that friend, your friend is always going to get your back and laugh and make you feel good about all the stuff you say. So there's a comfort there. And we're trying to bring that comfort to a place that could be very uncomfortable. And that transition takes a while and it's hard and you might not be perfect at it, but like, It's okay. You know, comedy's fun. Like if it bombs, so what? There's always another one. The thing is, you think that people notice, but a joke doesn't work. People just kind of like move on, and it's fine. So just be patient with yourself in that process. All right. So sometimes people will get, do you guys still see me? I just want to make sure this thing did. Oh, here we go. Okay, perfect. Okay. Wanted to make sure my PowerPoint wasn't taking over some of the screen. All right. So the next thing, if people like, you want to figure out how am I making this tough thing funny? One thing to get granular on is to think of your senses. So like, I was just recently stuck on trying to figure out how to like explain the extreme Italianness of what I grew up with. And I started, in fact, with a lot more like things I thought people would know. And like I had a reference to The Sopranos in there. Well, I roll up at Edinburgh Fringe Festival doing those jokes, and they don't know what I'm talking about. So I have to go to, which I should have done, to be honest, go granular on the senses and the detail. And we have an advantage as people who've gone through some crazy stuff, that there are all these granular details that to us, we hear these stories all the time, but to the world, like, are not so funny. They're funny. They're weird. They're notable. And if you go into those details, that's where you can mine some funny. So I got into the sensorial details of what International Foods Day looked like at my little Italian neighborhood school. And I had the senses of that. And like, okay, we had, it was pasta, pizza, lasagna, like going into that. And then like the one person brought something else and it didn't work out. And that's the joke. So that is where, if you get stuck on something, details and senses, what were you smelling? What were you hearing? Because I bet you, even in your most dramatic moments, there was something like something terrible was happening, and then like the ice cream truck goes by. Like that's a laugh moment because you told us something really intense, and then you give us all of these weird sensorial things that could have been happening at the time. That makes sense. If anyone has any questions at any time, I'm happy to answer. All right. Another thing that's really helpful for bringing lightness is to write without thinking. This is very hard to do. We are all trying to do this all the time. Thinking is the enemy of comedy, especially when you're just trying to like get it out and get the situation into the world, like try to find the comedy of it. I truly believe that the best way to find the comedy of anything is by trying to figure out ways to stop your thinking, to write without thinking. Now, yes, joke structure, brainstorming exercise, all of these different things that you can do, and like getting granular on details and really honing in on a joke. Yeah, that's all thinking, but that's the editor brain. We want to get into like play brain, this side of you, again, that your best friend brings out the most. And one of the ways to do that is by not thinking. Okay, great. Nice suggestion. How the hell do you do that? All right. There's lots of improv exercise, writing exercises you can do. And timers are very helpful, I find, as well. And I'll give you a case study from Honestly, which is the thing, if you've followed me, it's something that I've been talking a lot about, is this movie that I am making, and it's about my experience. So as a case study, so I first wrote, I once wrote this film about a year ago, and it was not funny. it was not funny. It was not in my voice at all. It didn't sound like me. It was like, I think what I thought someone else would want to hear in terms of a film, or someone else would be like, wow, that's a series I could make. I was thinking that way instead of really thinking about how would I bring this to life. And I was in a class for writing a short film, and she made us do an exercise. She's like, pick something you want to write about. And she gave us an improv writing exercise to do it. And this thing about this girl who thought she was a Viking. And so she didn't look like her Italian family. They told her Vikings invaded Sicily. That's exactly what my family did to me. And, but what if I went full in on this? That was the question. And I just sort of wrote a quick outline of a movie about someone who thinks she's a Viking because she doesn't look like her Italian family. And it like just came out. And then that ended up being the film, the genesis of the film. So how did we do that? It was an exercise with other people. Okay. So the teacher was saying, do this now, which was very helpful. And there was a timer involved. You have 5 minutes, go. And there's something when you have a timer and when you're with a group of people that you feel accountable to, that will help your brain push out the funny and bring lightness and bring you into that moment with your friend when you can just joke around until you get something as stupid as this, which is a way to bring lightness around this movie. It's about gaslighting. It's about genealogical bewilderment. It's about, before I did this improv exercise, I had tried to express this through stand-up, through a clown number, through like 85 different ways. And the only thing that worked was doing this improv writing exercise and having it like literally forced out of me. So it's as simple. If you want to bring more comedy to something, is just turn on the timer, grab a friend and jump on Zoom and make yourself think about like what would be the funniest version of this idea. And that is a way to go. Now I'm going to show you a few. We'll see how many we have time to go into. I have a few clips of some people who do comedy about tough things. These are not going to be clips about easy subjects, but they have found a way to make it funny. And in the chat, if you're able to, would love to hear why you think it's funny. And maybe you don't think it's funny, and that's okay too. That I would love to hear why you think it is funny. What is your reaction? How do you think they're getting the desired effect? And let me go to Maria Bamford, who's the queen of doing comedy about tough things. And let me get to her. Here we go. Do you guys see it? You see it. All right. So here we go. So we're going to play from 22 onward. Okay. And we'll just do 3 minutes of this.
Haven't been. Don't feel bad if you facility, which if you haven't been, don't feel bad if you go, and they're uniformly awful. You're not at the wrong one. They're all bad. They're all bad. It's as if an art director came in and said, okay, I want to break 5 more chairs, and then we need at least 3 pieces taken out of every puzzle, and the big screen TV, let's play it, have it playing Ultimate Fighting Championships at maximum volume, lose the remote. He sat me down with the psych guy, and he said, you know, the usual questions, why are you here? Have explicit plans to kill myself. Okay, great. Pretty common. What are the circumstances? Every moment is unbearable. What kind of work do you do? Communion. No response. Felt so relieved. And he went back to his little laptop, and some music came out of it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But I get it. A lot of times in the light booth right now, actually, I have a little WIMP video playing a baby tortoise trying to eat a raspberry. And it's just so, when at work, when I get bored, I have something to cheer me up. It doesn't affect my performance at all. He turned the laptop around and he said, "Is this you?" And I said, "Yes, clearly it's me with more makeup and better material." And he said, "I had to YouTube you because I was concerned that you were delusional. Since when is it grandiose psychosis to claim that in any way you are involved in the entertainment industry? It is simple courtesy to wait until someone has left the room to IMDb them. And it's not like I said I was Richard Pryor. And had I claimed to be one of the finest comedians of our past century and been able to perform anything from his quintessential 1979 Long Beach stand-up special, or perhaps more weirdly, been able to quote some of his lesser-known material about the difference between beating white women and black women, doesn't age well.
Okay, so what are some ways that you all think that this was funny? How did Maria get laughs from not very psychiatric facility material? Okay. Someone said, just a woman who thinks he's Viking is funny in itself. Yes. So being at a psychiatric facility, okay, sad, but also interesting. And someone who's willing to talk about it in such detail is just funny. And the fact that she brings her vulnerability to it in such a unique way is just going to be funny. She seems almost like she has this raw vulnerability that almost seems like she's maybe having a little nervous anxiety, psychosis, something is happening while she's there. She's bringing that to the stage. Did you all notice the details too? The five, let's break these 5 chairs. Let's put UFC Ultimate Fighting Champions and lose the remote. So, and she did that in a character voice, and those little details were the joke. And then the doctor does that terrible thing, that looks her up as she's in the room, which is so damaging and awful. And we've all, so many people, I'm sure, have had terrible interactions with medical professionals. And she brings, how do you think she made that funny? How did she talk about anyone? You know, you guys are a little shy, and that's super cool. Give you a second. Well, one of the things, okay. Bamford's voices are hilarious, and they are vastly different, like her deep, serious voice. Yes. So it's a character. She brings a character to it. So she goes to the different voices, and that makes a shift, and surprise brings funny as well. And it's like a mom voice. Yeah. So because she's not like a mom, she's so different than her that it's just funny to watch this nervous kind of seeming woman with like some sort of neuroses, then all of a sudden doing this like confident woman voice when she does the person who's doing the decorating. Yeah. So these are just a few of the ways that Maria uses to bring lightness to being in a psychiatric facility and being mistreated by medical professionals. Now, do you have to do character voices? Do you have to use all the things? No, you don't have to do that at all. You do whatever comes, you feel comes naturally to you and feels most comfortable to start. Okay, so let's go into another one. Absolutely Fabulous is my favorite show. They are so inappropriate. They are so awful. It's a British show, and it's about these 2 women. One of them is a mom, and they're awful people. They managed to make a menopause support group hysterical, and we're going to watch that right now. Okay. All right. Let's get to that. Okay. So think about this.
And I don't think I have actually got the menopause. Although I do have to do the checklist before I leave the house to ensure I don't go out without my trousers on. Again.
I'm sensing denial. I'm sensing armpits.
I'm sensing pubic sideburns and sweaty ones at that.
Hello, my name is Beth DeWoody. I just want to share a few horrors. At night, I can't sleep, but at the wheel of a speeding car, I'm out like a light.
Does anyone else have symptoms from these pills? Like, I don't know, 3 nipples?
Yeah. All right. Hello, my name is Beth DeWoody. I'm having 3 heart attacks a day, and my skin thinks it's in the Congo. Otherwise, I'm fine. My doctor says I should stop taking the pills, but that's what a man would say. I mean, what do they have to do? Let their belt out a couple of notches and join a golf club?
There are alternatives.
No, not the testosterone implant.
For some people, they work.
Oh, yeah. Tell that to Marley Quinberg. They turned her into an overheated sex maniac.
No, but I've got them. She should come and see me.
The woman cannot walk, overheated and oversexed. She gave herself an accidental clitorectomy with a hand fan.
Hi, I'm Bo Chrysalis. Can I just ask what this meeting's for? Is this angry divorcees or groaning?
No, in the menopause, Bo.
Oh, well, we don't have that in America. We don't believe in it. Certainly not in L.A.
Well, we just don't talk. We go right on. Sisters, come on. This meeting's going nowhere. My name is Jobo, and I'm happy to be having the menopause. I have hot flushes and memory loss.
Well done.
And sometimes, when I sneeze, I pee.
Beth DeWoody, the sands of time are trickling through my hourglass.
Patsy Stone, I hope you're wearing thick pants.
Yes.
Medina Monsoon, stand on the bloody bin bag!
Womb prayer, everybody, womb prayer.
No.
Embrace the dryness. Love your womb. Come down, Lilith, and suck up our juices and blow back wisdom. Group hug, everybody.
You with that? That's the one.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay. What about that? What did that make it funny? Okay. All right. With the frizzy hair. Okay. So the woman with the frizzy hair. Yes. It was maybe Beth DeWoody. Yeah. So right. Slapstick, over the top, exaggeration. That is definitely relatable. Yes. They're not saying things that are like so out of the woods. But it's sometimes how they say them is funny. Okay. And then this is the female version of the young ones. Yeah, I think that her boyfriend, Jennifer Saunders' boyfriend, was doing the young ones, I think, maybe. I think they might have been in it, some of it. Yes, they're making light of something difficult, and they're using exaggeration. And also the 2 people that say stuff that might be construed as mean, Edwina and Patsy, they're the 2 that were on the couch saying mean things, but they are like shocked about things that are just like about, they can't even stand to be in a menopause group, and they're like older. It's like, what is their problem? And if you see the show too, they're just like, they are always the problem. So they might say something mean, but it's because their own shortcomings, because they can't handle life. Like those 2 can't handle life at all. And you see them on the couch not being able to handle life. So it's not so much something that's like they're making fun of something. It's about like, we're making fun of them and how dumb they are. And notice there was a few people in the room who were more subdued, especially the person who looked like was leading the group. And that's called a straight man. So, or straight person, we could say. So that is always, you have someone in the scene or the situation that is just the voice of reason. And that helps us also make it more relatable as well. Cool. All right, so we can do one more, or if anyone, I know someone had a question here, we'll address this now. It says, I like shocking people. I'm generally blending quiet, but my humor is bizarre. Bizarre people with bizarre humor usually are Normal also on the other ends. That's not unusual at all. And a little twisted, and I like make people uncomfortable because I've been comfortable with myself in all my life as an adoptee. Yeah, I like making people uncomfortable too. I love it. I love doing bits that I'm able to deal with tension. And I talk about this in comedy classes as well. You can do and say whatever you want. You can create whatever tension you so desire. You can create that uncomfortability. You have to be confident you can handle the uncomfortability well and carefully so that you can make them laugh besides themselves. And that takes some time. That takes some practice. The main goal, unless you're just trying to shock, and then that's more of like, maybe if you just want to leave them shocked, that's more of like performance art, theater. But if you're doing comedy, that goal is to make people laugh, even despite themselves. Like that's always the best way. Okay. So I'm not sure what you mean when you get obliterated with the confidence stuff. Not sure what you mean, but let me know what you mean more about that. I think Betsy too, you had a question as well, right? The question came from someone else. Right?
Yeah, we had a question that came in during registration. So that person asked, how do you balance the fine line between humor and sensitivity when creating comedy about personal and potentially sensitive topics like being donor conceived?
Now, it's like what I talked about being therapized is super important because the audience, when you start talking about this stuff, there's always I did an hour in Edinburgh, and like, there was always a point, I could feel it, where they would go, is this too much? And I had a joke ready for them. I could feel it, and I was ready to like, hey, I'm okay with this. We're going to talk about it. So how do you balance it? Is you have to be so okay with it that if you notice that people are starting to go, you have to be able to say, hey, listen, it's fine. We could joke about it. You have to, sometimes, in fact, I have a joke that is really intense. It does make people uncomfortable. It's like a magic, those jokes are like magic tricks. You make people very, very uncomfortable. And then I bam with a punchline. And it sometimes didn't work. They kept in the sadness. And the way I fixed it is I put a smile on when I said it. So it like signified to the audience that they knew to laugh. So if you're finding maybe sometimes you're like, man, I just keep bumming everyone out when I talk about this, it could be a body language issue. It could be like, you just might notice you're like, you seem sad about it. So that could be one of two things. Maybe it's not really as therapized as you think it is. Or maybe you just need to smile, put a smile on when you say it, and it could change the whole thing. So I think you always need to be gut checking with yourself, and it can change as like drama unfolds and things happen. Gut check that you are 100% okay with whatever you want to be talking about. That's the line, because I believe you could say anything on stage as long as like you're comfortable and you're aware like what you might be doing to the audience, and you're ready to deal with that as well. And it's hard, and that's why it's an art. That's why it's an art. Okay, and just know that like most people in here, like as long as you're coming at it with like a good heart, you know, people will forgive your missteps. I think people are more forgiving than maybe we want to believe. But okay, so I get obliterated with the confidence stuff. You have to be able to withstand silence when no one is laughing. Confidence, and the crowd always picks that up upon that very easily. Okay. So you mean when a joke bombs? Yeah. Well, you eventually, bombing is never a pain-free experience because you seriously thought that was funny. But everyone bombs. I interviewed someone on my podcast who writes for one of the late night shows, and he's like, you wouldn't believe the people I've seen bomb. Like people you think is like comedy gods. They bomb in the writer's room. They'll pitch something, crickets. So how do you keep confidence up? Well, during the moment, it's tough. You have to believe if you're talking to your best friend and a joke bombs, you kind of just are able to acknowledge it in a way and move on. So the more that you get comfortable and speak with the confidence that you have when you're speaking to your best friend or that person who laughs at everything you say, and you're able to convey that, the better you will do. And it's hard and it's a journey, and like you have to constantly be working on that. That's something I personally work on a lot in terms, and I do different things to feel better about that. I do a lot of clown training actually, and not like this clown, but it's like improv on steroids, because clown's all about failure and feeling good in that. If you're just getting started, if you just are like, I just want to make funnier Facebook posts about from this presentation, like, know that some of the things you create are not going to work. But the beautiful thing about this world is that there's so much content that people are hearing and seeing and sensing and all reading, that if yours bombs, no one will see it or remember. So don't worry, just put it out there, because like if a post bombs, it's not great. Like, so what? Maybe edit it and put it up 2 months later. No one will know. Just keep trying, putting it out there. Comedy's a practice. Bringing lightness is a practice. You'll have to just keep trying different things, and you'll get it. You'll eventually get better the more you put it. Okay. So could do self-deprecation well. I feel that. I believe most comedians come from painful backgrounds. Often they do. Sometimes they don't. And again, that goes to the question mark. No one knows how comedy works. Even like Seinfeld seems to, I think, come from like a pretty stable Long Island household. And he's doing pretty well for himself. So, who knows? And someone says there can be pain behind the humor. And that's the kind of stuff now this is where we go into taste. So it's super important if you're trying to figure this out, is like understanding your taste, because that will guide you to what you want to create and to understand what you're trying to do. Okay. I will say one thing about understanding your taste, which is really important, because if you want to start bringing lightness and comedy to your stuff, there might be some feedback from some people that might have some feedback, and something you need to be super aware of. Is that what is funny to one person is not funny to another. And if some people give you feedback and it's negative, I want you to take a look at that person and understand what kind of comedy they're generally fans of. And if they think things are funny that you do not think are funny, doesn't matter what they say, because they just don't like the stuff you do. They don't get you. They don't get what you're trying to do. So if people trying to tell you you're not funny or dog on what you're trying to do, because sometimes people do, know that oftentimes they just might not get you. Maria Bamford said it in this talk that I heard her give. She was like, you're perfect, they're wrong. So.
Lauren, I have a question, since we're talking about potentially uncomfortable subjects and audience reaction. It seems to me that sometimes people might be laughing kind of uncomfortable laughter. Is that helpful to get to like real laughter, or what do you do with that?
Yeah, that's great. So oftentimes it's when you're trying something, like maybe the first time you do it, it's uncomfortable laughter. And then you're like a scientist, and you need to take the editor brain, maybe give it a day or two, and then you deal with the painful realization that it was uncomfortable and not real laughter, because you want the real belly laugh. That's like the goal. But often it's a stepping stone. Okay, now something about what you did made it it wasn't light enough. Something was up, a foot. Then you have to figure it out. And I say this like it's no big deal, but there's one time I did something and I'm still pained about it. I mean, it went over okay. The audience was coming up to me after, but I felt I didn't get it. And you still remember. So I say these things, but it's a process. It's hard. Okay. So it's Brian Regan can carry a large crowd, but is not really a social person. Yeah, that's also a thing. Some people are social on stage and real quiet off stage. Often comedians are not the bubbly people you think we are always. We sort of like a lot of quiet time off. But again, it's different. I may be more social than a lot of comedians. Some comedians I know are very socially adept, very much so. Some are like super introvert weirdos, like you probably shouldn't talk to them, people. But again, question mark. No one knows what makes comedy. So like how you really make it happen. Cool. I can show you one more clip if anyone has any question. I love people are giving their favorite comedians. This is great. This is your taste. These are all people that like look at what they do and try to understand how they do it. And these are people that you admire. And this is probably because you think it's funny and you might be funny in a similar way. Okay, cool. Yes, I love Conan, and Conan is wacky. I love how wacky Conan is, and how self-effacing. It makes him very, very likable. And he's like so successful. Cool. All right, I can give you one more clip if you all want to see. So this is the most likable thing on the internet are dogs. They're like maybe in the world. And these people, Flight of the Conchords, figured out how to make dogs with epilepsy funny. Okay, and we're gonna see how did they Flight of the Conchords, those fellows do it. Okay, what is happening? Okay, let me so just give me a second actually, because I think my Zoom went into a different window. So here we go. Let me go to the share. Okay. Okay. Here, okay.
These are limited edition. Get them while they're here. My idea of beauty.
I do not have the fancy. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
It's great to be here. I'd like to dedicate this song to all the dogs here with epilepsy.
This song is dedicated to epileptic dogs.
I love dogs.
I love dogs with epilepsy.
Think about the epileptic dog. Not all the puppies are born so lucky.
Somewhere there's a golden retriever who's having a seizure.
Somewhere there's a pup season up and there's a Labrador who's striking on the floor. Think about the epileptic dogs. Send out somebody to stop these dogs from acting funny. Send a check in the letter and make a set to feel better.
Come on and make a donation and save a shaky Dalmatian.
This is the remix.
Epileptic, 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 epileptic,
So how did these idiots do this? Okay. They seem like they're having a blast. It's a catchy song, and they also, yes, they're a catchy song, and it sounds like, okay, these people know what they're doing. It's a very serious setup. They have like a PowerPoint in the background, and then all of a sudden, but you notice that there's some problems in there. There's like one fan in the audience. There's only one person who's really into it. If you notice, that was a quick cut. And then they do a remix, and they use a strobe light. So why is that so funny? Is you never really see it. No dogs were hurt in the making of this video. You never see anything. They're not showing the like bad details. The joke is on them and how dumb they are. So one thing to always think about is who's the target of this? Who are we really laughing at? We're really laughing at those two idiots, and that they have a performance that's going just fine, even though they're like not that great. It's like the catchy, weird song. And then they try to spice it up. And they obviously, without their manager's consent, start using a strobe light and totally ruin the whole gig. Like they can never get it right. So the joke is on how stupid they are. So that's always think. And then a piano and bass kind of, yes, right. Because the things they're playing are dumb. Like they're playing a passive piano. Like that's what they do. And they ruin something. Yes, it's always fun to watch people screw up. Oh, we love that. We love screw ups. We love seeing people flounder in any way, physically or just like with the situation. So think about if you have a thing that you've screwed up, as painful as it might be to talk about, once you've therapized it, we love to hear about it because it'll be very relatable as much as you think it's probably the only thing you've done. Maria Bamford talks about, there's a whole bit about how she refused one of the biggest comedy producers in Hollywood to do a documentary about her. That's like her punchline when she mentions the name. So yeah, it's super funny to watch how she screwed that whole thing up. Yeah. Other questions you might have. Anyone have a specific joke they want to pitch and we could make it funny here together in the last few minutes? Happy to help if anyone has any material. How about you, Sarah? I like crowd work. So or Timothy's in the chat. Anyone have anything they want to pitch?
Feel free to come off mute if you want to.
Okay. Can you get off mute?
There's two of us. Two Sarahs.
Okay, Sarah Scott. Shot.
That's me.
Sarah Shot. Yeah.
I was reminded that as I began to heal, I began to crack jokes about coming from serious alcoholism and street mother into churchaholics and drugs and alcohol. And that might be too dark, but I think it's pretty descriptive of my background. So, alcoholic.
I love it. I want to hear all about this. This is great. This is exactly the juicy details that we need to know. So, yes. So one fun thing, and I've talked about this before in classes, is we do associations. So you make lists. Lists are great because they just help prod the mind and they'll help get some of those details. Lists of everything you associate with one part of that, the first part of that, and then the second part of that. And then you start thinking of parallels because there's some similarities that are funny and differences. And it's simply making the connection that you're going to just simply point from one to the other. That'll help. And you should talk about it. That's hysterical. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. That's great. All the details, all those, and then you can, maybe then I'll prod like an antidote. Okay. So maybe you just do some simple parallel jokes. Like this is like this, or they both have this in common. Is there anything you wanted to add, Sarah? You good? Okay. Okay, cool. So someone said this is helpful instead of just writing about pain and woe. Yeah, it's writing about, this is kind of like another step in healing in some ways, because you therapize it and now you're like spinning it into more light and sharing that with other people. And it really does help other people because not everyone has gone through the thing you've healed. Maybe let's divide it all into 10 parts and you're only therapized 2 and you're going to talk about those 2 things on stage. Well, some of your audience might have 10 things and maybe your 2 things are the things they've never therapized. So they're watching you like in wonder, like, wow, like you're able to talk about all this stuff. Meanwhile, you're like, I only talk about 2 things, but like whatever, you're giving people hope by doing that because not everyone can talk about the specific things that you will talk about. And that gives people, a lot of hope. And I hope you will reframe. It's a reframe mistreatment and trauma. I mean, in some way, you don't have to sugarcoat it or anything. We're telling you to just tell. Truth is funny. Like, tell the truth. Give us the details that you're like, oh my God, that we want to know. Tell us. It's great. You think it's embarrassing? 15 people will come up to you after, like the hardest, most difficult stuff you talk about. And they'll be like, that reminds me of blah, blah, blah. Like one time I had this drunk from the bar at my Edinburgh show. And it was one of my favorite shows because he, felt liberty to like tell me what he related to at all times. But it was amazing. Because I was like this drunk guy in Edinburgh is like relating to the story about being like this Nordic Viking Italian person. So yeah, it works. One thing I wanted to say is that I mentioned I do teach classes on this. So I have a class coming up, and now I can't find the thing, but it's okay. It's called Funny Side Up. And if you want for more, I guess I could put it in the chat. Let me see if I could find it right here. And so I have classes starting in a few weeks. And so it's a Tuesday from 2 to 4 Eastern. And we go through all the different ways to create lightness from all of the stuff. And we do a lot of workshopping of material, a lot of exercises to stop thinking, etc. So yeah. Cool. And if anyone doesn't have any questions, I think we did it. I think we did it, Betsy.
We did it. Thank you.
Thank you all. This was so fun. I really do hope this helps, and let me know. I am open to the feedback if you should have some. So I'm at Laura, my website's up there, and just feel free to always drop me a line.
Okay. Well, thank you. And just for everybody here, we do send out a list of resources, including Lauren's website, after the program. So you'll get that probably tomorrow once the video is online. And let's see, I did post a link. We do a little survey to see what you thought of our program this evening and what ideas you might have for the future. So please take a minute to fill that out, if you will. That'll be in the follow-up email that you get as well. And thank you, Lauren, for volunteering your time to be with us this evening. We can't wait to have you here in March. And I'm going to put let's see, the link for Adoption Network Cleveland in the chat. As many of you might know, we're a membership organization, and we're a nonprofit. And so to keep these programs going, we do invite you to join. So put that in the chat as well. It was great to have you all, and I appreciate you being here, and Lauren, especially your presentation. Thank you.